so we can enjoy the epic ads of Maze Runner: The Scorch Trials. I don't know what the heck that is, while we enjoy the Dotabuff discussion. So if you guys have any questions about Dotabuff as I'm going through this, definitely feel free to interject and just sort of call them out if you have any questions. And we'll just sort of run through this thing here. I'll tell you guys how I use it, what I use it for, why I use it, and all that good stuff. So, yeah, get ad block. So, okay. So basically, I guess we'll talk about what is Dotabuff. And if you go to the About section, according to their website, Dotabuff is the place where millions of Dota 2 players get in-depth statistics, share games, their profiles, and better understand the game we all love. We turn raw statistical data from billions of public matches into actionable information that you can use to learn and improve. Dotabuff is widely seen as one of the leading Dota 2 community resources for both new and experienced players. So how does that translate into something that we can use to better ourselves as Dota players? Basically, what we end up doing here is analyzing a couple different things about the games that we play, and you can analyze them at a really fine level of looking at one specific game, such as the match we just played. You know, if you win or lose, you can still get a lot of information from the Dotabuff in that regard. And then also, I think the bigger benefit is looking at everything from a broader spectrum of every game you've played, or every game you've played this patch or this month. Not only you, but also all of the other users. So it gives you a really good idea of what like the meta is doing, or what heroes are big, or what heroes are winning, what heroes are losing. So you can get a lot of information not only about you and yourself, but also basically just Dota in general. So it's really good to analyze your gameplay. And what I've found is that overall Dota is generally it's about efficiency. You win the game by being efficient with your resources. It's strategy and mechanics, but I think it's more about managing your time and resources. So you can kind of see how, like when you analyze gold per minute, XP per minute, you can see if you're being effective. So it gives you statistics that you can't really see during the game. You can kind of get a feeling for the pacing, like, okay, I think I'm doing well in farm this game, or I'm not doing well. But after the fact, it shows you a little bit more information in that regard. So what we're going to do first is just go through some of the top menu items, such as like esports, heroes, news, and that sort of thing. So like if I go to Dotabuff, I never really read any of the news here on the front page. So there's a bunch of news and everything there that you can review. I don't really pay attention to that. On the top, heroes, these are like global data, such as heroes, items, players, matches, the blog, and then forums. So in heroes, this will tell you bigger trends in heroes, biggest changes this week. So Brewmaster's rate is increased by 1.74%. So maybe a lot of people are picking Brew. A lot of people are winning with Brewmaster. Ember Spirit's pick rate increased by 4, which is pretty legit. So this will kind of give you an overview of big changes. Then all of this is information on, you can see the different stars here, high pick rate or high win rate. So it kind of gives you just some quick links to these different individual heroes. Items, it will just tell you most purchased and used items, what items are winning. All of these columns are also sortable if you want to sort them by something. The win rate, age is divine. I guess at the end of the day, these are game-winning items. So whoever gets this is going to win, essentially, according to this, 97% of the time, or 89% of the time if you get a rapier. So this is, again, broad spectrum, just everything in general. That's kind of what the top menu does. So beyond that, if you're in your profile, this is more like the personal personal data about your account or your basically your account, your performance. So when we go to this, you're going to start on overview. If you start on just clicking your name here, or generally getting to your profile, you're going to see yourself. Starting at the top, most played heroes. This is pretty self-explanatory, but it just shows you which heroes you play a lot. So these are heroes that I spam, and it shows that maybe I do particularly pick them too much, especially the top two. I mean, I have more than double the amount games played with these particular heroes, more so than the next group of heroes that I also play a lot. And we can look more into this when we get to the actual heroes section. So that's kind of the overview of heroes played. You also have activity, which shows you how many games you're playing on any given day. The bigger the circle, the more wins you have. Closer it is to green, the more you're winning. Closer it is to red, the more you're losing. So you can see I had a fairly bad day there, fairly decent day here earlier. So just a way of showing like what days, weekends I'm playing a little bit more, sometimes like middle of the week not so much. So, take that for what it is. Um, Latest matches. This shows you basically my recent loss streak, but also some winning games. And this you can just go, it's just basically quick links to jump into like the game that you just had. So you can review the stats about that particular game. Over here, lifetime stats shows you stats recorded for 1,400 games, no stats recorded, lobby types, how often you play, normal versus ranked. Win rates are broken down for that as well. So I'm winning just slightly more in ranked games, which I guess is acceptable, because I guess you try and pick heroes to win. You maybe focus a little bit more, or you try hard a little bit more. So that I think is acceptable. Other game modes and data is down here. Friends and the win rate. So we do very well when we play together. That's awesome. Good news there. So that's pretty much the overview section. Now, if you go into matches, this will show you more information than that overview about the specific matches that you're playing. So here you get a little bit more information about the items that you had, just again, different ways to dig deeper in this. In these other menus, you can also sort a little bit easier. So if you want to see just matches for this particular patch, or a different date range, you can select different patches this week, this month, all time, last 12 months, last 6 months, etc. You can also sort it by hero. So if you look in the pull down for heroes, you can sort it by a particular hero to compare different item builds, different KDAs, how long do these matches last when you're playing a particular hero. You can sort by lobby and basically anything else. So it's about organizing the information that you want to see. For example, if I go to, let's do Luna. Luna's a pretty good example here. So this is Luna games all time. So you can see 64 matches, win rate, kills, deaths, assists, general average for GPM, XPM. If I just glance at this, you can see that maybe my build is always a little bit too static. Maybe I need to sort of itemize for the games a little bit more effectively if this is working or not working. Some heroes do sort of have just a more standard build, so maybe you will kind of follow this, but the best thing to do is just make note of this. If this is something that's common with all of your heroes, like admittedly I could do a little bit better with itemization. I kind of personally feel like I rely too much on guides. So maybe this will show me, definitely if I'm buying these items all the time, maybe I need to start thinking about other items and other builds to sort of cater towards the team that I'm fighting. So that's kind of the matches. It's good to see. You can get a better glance of what's been happening. Like if I go to just this patch, let's say all heroes for just this patch. You can see 54%, you can see the different games that I've played, and just different ways to look at different ways of looking at the matches themselves. I think that Heroes is probably one of the most, I think, telling areas of Dotabuff because it does the same thing that Matches does, but the trick here is to sort this into a way that you're finding the information that you need. So what we'll do is go through most played, highest win rate, and most game impact and best economy, and you can also do just these bars at the top. So like for example, if you've tried a hero a couple times and then you forget about that hero, you can go back here and try and find ways to find heroes that you've done well with, but you may not have played them enough to know, oh yeah, I'm really good with Viper. So maybe this will find you some heroes that are going to be a new pick for you that you've done well with. Maybe you can sort of learn a little bit more about them. So this is exactly what I did with Luna, who's one of my highest win rate heroes at the time. Actually, surprisingly, only second, but probably just because I don't have as many games with Lycan as I do Luna. But if you sort this by win rate, you can see you also have to kind of take into consider the matches played. Like if I have a 100% win rate with Darkseer, that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be my next best hero. You also have to look at the games played. So like Spectre, if I've played 7 games and I'm at 71%, there might be something there. Like maybe I can go back in and start to play Spectre more. Sniper is another one that I've started to do that with. Like I've had really good experiences with Sniper, and this is just in this patch. Like this isn't even when he was big. So if I look at this and say, okay, maybe Sniper, if I continue playing with him, maybe I can keep this up, and there might be something there. Maybe I'm good at playing that hero. So you can sort of find who you're good at with this, and also KDA, if you're looking for somebody that you want to fight with, you can sort by all these different things. So maybe you look for that like Undying. Yeah, I've only played 2 matches. This data may or may not be enough to say I'm going to do well with him. But if there are some that you have more matches, like maybe I'm not winning as much with Medusa, but I'm definitely having team fight impact. So these different ways of sorting the hero data is very helpful for sort of picking out these general information about heroes as a whole. Same thing with matches played. If I go down to here, you can see all, from here to maybe like say uh, Viper is all 20 plus, and then the rest of them I have just very few games on these heroes. So you can see that I probably need to get a little bit more flexible with picking some of these heroes because my comfort pool is like maybe 20 to 25 heroes. So maybe I should go back through this and play some that are maybe in the meta, but I just don't have as much experience with them. So that's something that we can do here in sorting by matches played. And that's why personally I do think I could be a little bit more balanced with these games. I like these heroes. I think everybody's going to have favorite heroes, but as long as you're aware of like this information, I think it will help out. And something that's very upsetting to me is that I really enjoy playing anti-mage, but the reality of it is like I just don't win with them. And it's always very upsetting because I do well with him. I farm well, I fight well, but I think that he takes so long to get online. And in my bracket, like the teams in this patch it's not conducive for AM winning. So what happened there is I got frustrated and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna spam AM until I learn him and I win games. But that never happened. So now I have like a whole bunch of games with him and I'm not winning with him. So the reality is I probably should stop playing him and focus on some of those heroes that I do know that I have higher win rates on and higher impact. So yeah, it's definitely about knowing your strengths and weaknesses. And sometimes you can't sometimes you're not aware of that unless you look at the hard data. Like this is a year of information here. Like when I'm playing these heroes, when I'm playing Lina or Antimage, I think I'm doing well, but the reality is like I'm not winning games with those heroes. So maybe we should focus on heroes that do win games. So I think that's important about looking at all of the games that you've played to sort of analyze and see where those strengths and weaknesses are. So that's the heroes, and you can sort through some of these other ways, but it's kind of a different way of looking at the same thing. So yeah, just different ways to sort through them. Items, I don't really so much use items. It shows me just how often I buy particular items and win rates. I think it's interesting, but I'm not going to this and seeing like, okay, let's play hero with Ethereal or Gem because it'll win a game. I don't really quite see the relevance in this, but it's there nevertheless. Records is just kind of fun. It keeps track of some of the interesting things that have happened, like the longest match you've played, most kills, most assists, all of this good stuff. Sometimes it's cool to just visit this every once in a while and see. Um, where is it? I think best KDA was a sniper game, 41. So if I go to that, like it will show me how many kills I've had with the sniper. And I think this is back when I was playing limited. So yeah, 27 kills, no deaths. So that's apparently made it to my records board. So it's kind of fun just to see that every once in a while. Now, a really big thing here, I think, is trends. And when we look at trends, this will show us over time how we're performing. So we can follow trends as far as win rate, how our win rate is fluctuating over time. We can look at our KDA over time, gold per minute, XP per minute, last hit per 10 minutes, and denies per 10 minutes. So the thing that we have to look at is the bigger picture. Like yesterday, I had a really big losing streak of like 7 or 8 games, and I completely was bummed out of it. I'm still kind of bummed about it, and like today is kind of rough because I want to win games. But here, if we look at the bigger picture, um, we can sort of analyze like, are we having impact in our games, or are we winning overall? We'll look at that in a minute. So here at the win rate over all time, you can see that we are sort of fluctuating and increasing in that. If we go to gold per minute or experience per minute, hopefully we'll see like maybe when you first start playing, you're very much learning the game, and then you might sort of plateau. Depending on different patches, you may see that maybe the gold per minute is down, or if you're focusing on playing like support for a little bit of time, that might be a little bit lower. So the thing that you want to look for in this is um, if we're seeing improvement or not. So if I go to, let's just say like the last 3 months for any of these, we can analyze like, okay, something was happening here where I did very well with experience, and then maybe towards like the middle of November, we can maybe see that it's kind of trailing off a little bit. So these things are going to help us become aware of, are we improving, are we stagnant, or are we decreasing in these particular skill levels or parts of the game, basically. So like for me, in the last 3 months, last hitting is going up, and it looks like this is a really, really big increase. But if you look at the sidebar, it's just a matter of 30 to like maybe 33. So it's not a humongous increase, but we're still increasing very subtly the amount of last hits that we're getting. The denies is kind of the opposite for me. It's actually probably going down because I don't know why, but again, it's not going down a lot. Even over 3 months, this is just fluctuating very little, even though it looks like it's a very big dip. So if this is something that I look at and say, oh, you know what, maybe, yeah, I could focus on denying more, because obviously denying farm from your opponent is going to help you in the long run. So this will just make a mental note for me, like, okay, try and do some more denying over the course of a laning phase or something of that nature. So what I take away from this is that it just kind of brings awareness to these things that you may not be thinking about in game. So you can see, as long as you see improvement or strive to see improvement, this will help reinforce that. If you are improving, if you're having more of an impact, this will show you, KDA. Let's do a little bit longer range than 3 months. So, you can see maybe like the KDA is improving slightly if your positioning or your team fighting skills are improving a little bit. you can see that as well. So, it's about finding ways to organize this data and just sort of draw information from it, and that's how we can improve. Right now, we're looking at over the broad spectrum of things. After we look at this, we're going to look more closely at analyzing specific matches. So if you do actually, there's like a way that you can befriend somebody from Dotabuff and it will track your solo and party MMR. It will do the same thing with the graph as well. Another thing, this is on the main page as well, is the win rate and record. You can see, I kind of like to try for 50 plus. Anything over 50%, I think that you're having a big impact consistently. The further away that you're from 50%, obviously you're more consistent in that. If you're below 50%, then there's definitely something to strive for. And I think through the mechanics or just awareness, team fighting, positioning, and all these other mechanics, I think you can at least get to a positive win rate. And then the more successfully that you apply those fundamentals, then you can surpass and get a little bit further from 50. So definitely, keep an eye on this. These are bigger picture things here. Um, and, definitely check this out every once in a while to see what this is like for you. So now that we've looked at sort of everything as a big picture, I'll go back to matches and we'll look at some individual match recaps. So what I like to do is I'll have this open when I'm playing, and like after every game, whether it's good or bad or indifferent, I'll just go to this page to see to review the game real quick to see who did what, and like, okay, yeah, I felt like I was kind of slow in farm that game. You can see the GPM or XPM and just kind of see what everybody else was doing. So it gives you a better idea of if this is happening in the next game and you're aware of it. Maybe you mention it to your teammates, or you focus on farming more effectively or fighting earlier or whatever the case may be. So I'll start with one that I did, I guess, relatively well in as a Luna. So we'll see, this is just one that I picked a win from. So I had a positive KDA. So hopefully with that, we can still get impact from that. You can see that we have farmed reasonably well. We have last hits. This is for a 40-minute game. So, you're gonna hear standards of like how many last hits should you have, and everybody says you want to have 50 per 10 minutes. I mean, that's going to fluctuate based on your MMR, the heroes you play, and the game that you play. But overall, like you wanna look at did were you in fights? If you're a fighting hero, if you're a pushing hero, did you push towers? It seems like this team did reasonably well. Like the Legion commander probably could have done better in terms of farming, but it seems like they may have gotten a lot of lockdown assists. They have 13 assists, and they still went positive, but they're not really doing a lot of damage. They're not really doing a lot of pushing. So maybe they did help out somehow through the assists. Maybe either Alk or myself got some of those kills. And I don't particularly remember this exact game, but I'm pretty sure that's probably what happened. So like, you want to check sometimes like here for a couple of these heroes, like heroes that I think could and should be pushing, they just like rarely ever hit a tower at all. So I mean, you can look at that, and it might be your team that I've seen games where certain players have literally zero tower damage, which is what TD is. So, this is a game about pushing towers and taking objectives, and they never even got close to a tower to even hit it once. Like sometimes that's just kind of mind-boggling. So you'll see that. Maybe you see that about yourself. Maybe you remember like, okay, I had a really good advantage, but why was I not pushing towers? So you can kind of see, okay, I didn't really have that. Maybe I need to be more aware of pushing those towers. So that's something, and keep track of just basically how you farmed. If in the game, if you feel like you did well, make note, like write down. Maybe sometimes when you're playing, write down your last hits at 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and keep track of that to see so you can have something to relate it to or compare it to. So that's like I think a good match that we definitely won. let's see what happened to this one. We lost it and had sort of a slow game, it looks like. So here's one where like it seemed like I was fighting and farming well, but it seems like everybody else maybe didn't do as well as they could have. Like a 210 Wraith King, not much damage, not much tower damage. Like a Wraith King, I think with a blink and an armlet probably should have done, you know, almost a Deso, probably should have done a little bit better. So it seems like maybe in this one, you know, same thing with an Earthshaker. It seems like maybe the coordination just wasn't happening because we were. It seems like Sven and I were like fighting, you know, but something happened. And if I went back to watch the replay, maybe it was a communication issue or a team fight mechanics issue. So with this, like you have to kind of take it with a grain of salt. Like I lost this game, but it doesn't seem like from the stats that I did anything horribly wrong. So like there's going to be games that you are going to win, you know, and there's games that you're going to lose. But I think what you have to try and do is be as consistent as you can. And when you do lose games, always look at the stats. Like maybe the team just wasn't ready to win. You know, they weren't communicating or they messed up their build or just something happened. So sometimes we can control that through communicating and playing the game to our best ability. Um, and some people will say like, yeah, you know, you could have had more impact, you could have won that game. That may be true in some cases, and maybe sometimes it's not. I like to look at it this way, like these to me in my bracket, I don't think are bad stats for a 35-minute game. I think it's more that, you know, we should have something else was missing in this puzzle piece. So that's what I would do like in a loss, just to see like, yeah, I could have done better. You know, I could have pushed towers, but it seems like this is just one of those games that was just going to be lost anyways. And even when I'm playing it, you know, I'll still play the game to my best ability and try and play it out and try and win, because I also think that's very important. But looking back at it, it just maybe it just wasn't ready to be a win for us that day. So that's what I do in looking at the big picture and then also the smaller details about games that I've played. Support, when you play support, it's going to be different. I mean, what you want to look for is your KDA and just sort of look for assists. And you know, and this Dotabuff doesn't show certain things like ward placement. It doesn't show team organization or coordination. So there are other stat pages that you could use, like YASP has a little bit more information in that regard. It shows like where everybody was fighting or what times these fights broke out. That, you know, you have to kind of be mindful of during the game. But let's see, like as I'm gonna go to Shaman. I think I like Shaman currently. So as a support, you know, you're looking for assists. Like here's another thing. You know, you want to see if you're getting assists, if you have support items to support your team, if you're pushing, that sort of thing. So let's see. This one looks like a pretty average, hopefully an average game. So like this one, you know, pretty good KDA. I died a little bit. I mean, Shaman's pretty squishy, but I have a lot of assists. Gold is sort of okay. I was pushing towers. Obviously, you have the wards. So, you know, I was right up there with some of the cores, even beyond some of the cores. And ironically, wow, that's Cryptic. Holy cow, what are the chances? So I pushed more towers than Cryptic in this particular game. Sorry, buddy. But, you know, you have to kind of look at it with a grain of salt. Like if you're supporting, you know, look at the KDA. You're there to sort of help your cores win fights, you know, buy them items, support items to help ensure that these fights and pushes go successfully. So I think that's one way of looking at support. What is it? Support impact. But I think it's less tangible. You know, it's not so much about how much gold or experience you have. I think the closest way you're going to determine that is assists, tower damage. You know, maybe if I go to Witch Doctor, like maybe we'll see some hero damage just because he's more of like a fighting based hero with his ult. So like here's when I went 10, 1, 18. So maybe I have hero damage in this that you can kind of look at. So like 13,000 hero damage. I mean, it's not a core, it's not up to them with the core, but for a support, like that's pretty decent. So, it's just about knowing what you're looking at when you're here. So you want to look at effectiveness of the KDA, the farm, the damage, the healing, tower damage, and as a whole, like if you're seeing in all of your matches, if your KDA is very low, or you're dying a lot, maybe you need to focus on your positioning. If your gold and experience is kind of low, maybe you need to work on farming patterns and being more efficient with that time and those resources. So I think it's really good for looking at everything um, in general, as well as the minute details in every game. So I think that's pretty much in a nutshell. How you can use it to win at Dota by just kind of self-assessing each game. And Dotabuff isn't going to be enough. Like watch the replays too to fill in the gaps. Like some of these matches, obviously I don't remember them, but if you go back and watch it, you'll be able to see, okay, yeah, we were really uncoordinated in that game, or we could have done this better. So if you look at those replays and look at the data, it's really easy to see and locate tangible pieces of the game that you can improve on, or identify those that you're already doing well at, so you can sort of exploit them. So use that heroes list to find heroes that you're good at, and maybe start playing with them some more. Maybe you can get like super good with those heroes. So that's something to do, and also maybe you want to stay away from some of those heroes that you're not so good at. I've definitely found and pointed out a few that I need to kind of stop playing at. But they're just, the game is meant to be fun. I'll play heroes that I enjoy, and just kind of try and have fun with it. So that's pretty much what I do, and in my sort of casual Dota buff using, coming from sort of a very average player. Currently, I'm 2-3 or 2-4 solo, so I think that kind of applies to everybody though, wherever you're at. Definitely, check it out. If you guys aren't using it, you should be, at least in my opinion. It's always interesting to see after a game like who has Dota buff and who doesn't. Like I think you can learn so much from this. So if you guys have any questions about that, definitely let me know. I hope that helps give you maybe some insight as far as like what I use it for, or what you could potentially use it for. And yeah, rock on, guys. We'll leave it at that. And if you guys have questions, let me know, and we can sort of circle back to it. But I think we'll be jumping in a game momentarily at this point.